Hey, it's Miguel from Singing Tree Flutes. I'm attempting to do an instructional video on our 8-hole Aeolian alternating drone. Bear with me, there's a lot to know about these things here, and I'm going to try to give you some helpful tips if you have one of these and you're struggling with it, give you some useful tips on what you can do to make it a little easier on yourself, and also, just help you learn to navigate through this. This is one of our most complicated instruments that we make to play. I would think it's more complicated even than our triple drone flutes. And the reason being is because it has this pinky hole and it has this thumb hole here, right? And between the two of them and having to use these 3 fingers, so all 5 fingers on the left hand, that just seems to be extra complicated for some people. But we're going to start from the beginning here. First off, low E, that's the most popular one. That's one that we've had made to order on our website, and it sells like hotcakes. I'm almost thinking that, a lot of people, they love that sound, but I think most people seems like they would do better with an F sharp or a G, something a little bit smaller, because we find that a lot of people, they love that sound, but they struggle. This is a huge undertaking to use all 5 fingers on your top hand. Our left hand is usually not our dominant hand, and you have to be able to figure that out. And it's absolutely a great flute. If you're already an experienced flute player and you play multiple scales, it's a great flute. And it's going to challenge you, likely. Maybe some of you get it right away. Congratulations to you. But it's something that you definitely can and possibly will have to grow into. But there are options that we can do to make it easier as you go. First thing to keep in mind, it's a 7/8 bore E. Oftentimes we're actually starting to convert that to an E, and it'll be slightly different, but for the most part it'll be the same. But if you have one of these 7/8 bore E's, what you're going to want to know is, gentle on the bottom. First of all, let's just play it as a single flute if you have this, and make sure you're getting a solid deep tone on the bottom. And you have to have relaxed breath pressure. If you've purchased one of these and you're like beginner intermediate, it's there's a lot that you might have to learn to adjust. You really have to know your breath pressure and relax on that, because a low E and a 7/8 bore, you're not going to be able to play it with a lot of oomph, a lot of pressure to it. So get the right breath pressure, make sure you're getting that solid tone before you go anywhere, and make sure you can go up and down that scale on the drum, on the playing side. Okay, and then the next thing, this is going to be where the challenge comes into play. Keep those fingers covered on there and see if you can get the low tone with covering your pinky and your thumb. So just move your mouth over to the drone side. You don't have to play both at this point. Are you getting a good solid tone out of that? That's what you need to. If you're not getting a good solid tone, and please practice to feel that these holes are covered. The more experienced you are as a player, the more you'll just naturally be able to feel those holes right on the ball of your finger there. Okay, and make sure that they feel covered, and then get that low tone. And then if you can't get that low tone, and we're going to stop right here, because I feel like that probably the majority of people that get one of these and start struggling, that's going to be the spot, is having that pinky and that thumb hole be able to be covered. I just want to let you know there's nothing I can do. I can't adjust that for any person. This has to be exactly where it is, and it has to be kind of large in order for it to achieve what it can achieve, which is basically 2 notes that are perfectly in pitch with the flute, or at least as close as I can get them, and you get the first pitch here, and then you get the second pitch there. So this is the 5th of the scale with that hole uncovered, and when you lift this up, then you get the note above that, okay? So that has to be right where it is. And this is where I think most of the problem comes. So if you're squeaking, then immediately we found one of the problems that you may have. And maybe again, this might be a good time to, if you are getting that solid note, then cover this again and make sure that you're getting a solid note on both sides. You know what I'm saying? Because what happens that you may not know is you're covering this and you're covering this and you're like, yeah, I totally got that. And as you covered that pinky, your one of these fingers leak off the edge. You know what I'm saying? And so then this will squeak. So if you get a solid note here, one side, solid note here, one side, next step is to try both sides. And if you're getting a squeak, now you have to decide, because what will tend to happen for somebody, for probably several people, is one of these is going to tend to peel off. You're going to have these all the way covered, and then you're going to maybe have the thumb hole peel off a little bit, and then you're going to get a squeak on one side. And then you might be confused because you're just blowing on it and you don't know which side the problem is coming from. So keep all those fingers planted, and you can figure that out by going, you lean over here. Oh, that's sounding solid. This side's not. That'll tell you which finger potentially is pulling off, or at least which side is having an air leak. And again, you can know that it's not the flute by testing each side individually, making sure this is covered and this is covered, covering all the holes on both sides, and then making sure. That's probably going to be the number one problem that people struggle with, is getting their holes planted properly. So, solution for that. The first thing that we can do, right here I have a piece of tape. We use leather straps that sometimes people request, and we offer them with the flute. This is no problem to use. You won't even see it if you're performing, if it's on the back side. The first hole that I would consider covering is the thumb hole. And now the only thing that you have to worry about is the pinky and you know, on the drone side, that's all you have to worry about, and covering the 6 holes, right? And so that's covered. Now we're going to blow. And I don't have to worry at all about where my thumb is now. Now I can just rest comfortably and let that go. So if you were to purchase one of these flutes and you're just struggling, you still have an amazingly beautiful flute that can do a lot of things just by covering that hole, right? And every now and then, if you're feeling motivated to practice more, then you can peel that tape off, or that piece of leather, or that cork potentially, and you can try it this way. So that's pretty sweet. And also, let me grab another piece of tape. If you're still struggling, and I will say that what we've done, we've just now modified. For a while, I think we sent a mass email out there and we asked people if they wanted us to adjust for small fingers. Now we just by nature do that. What we started doing is, in general, Aeolian scale flutes, I make the holes lower and larger, and that's because you can potentially achieve an extended high octave range that way. But what I've changed now, what I do is you may get lucky and get a little bit of an extended high octave range on this, but it does so much already. On the drone flutes, I focus mainly just on having a nice comfortable fit for your hands and a clean sound. So we've raised the holes up a little bit, which is not good for high octaves, but we've also offset them. So you can see I move this hole over now, And each one's a little bit different, but I kind of start leaning them in and leaning them this way. That creates less of a reach between ring finger and pinky. So that you should probably just by nature see that on your flute, and it's a real ergonomic fit for most people's hands. And anyway, so that's part of it. But you can also try taping this. This tape trick is really great because if you're sitting there confused, like, man, I'm just really struggling. What's happening with this flute? I can't get it to make the sounds that I want. That'll give you a real clear answer right away. You know, if this tape's all the way sealed and this tape's all the way sealed, you should just be able to gently blow, and you should be able to get that solid tone. So now you have just a normal Aeolian drone flute. It's not an alternating drone flute anymore because the drone doesn't alternate. It's just an Aeolian drone flute. So should sound like that. And again, depending on the flute, it's going to be different. Did you notice how it had two notes, right? And that's the high octave of the E. And in this video will work for any key Aeolian drone flute that you have. But if you blow harder, typically our flutes will get that high octave. It's different for each flute. So I can't say for sure what your flute's going to do exactly. It could stay at the bottom note solely, but first things first. And if you're having a struggle just getting that solid note with this tape on, that probably means you need a little fetish adjustment. You know, if you don't know already, we have many videos that, or at least a couple of videos that show that ideal placement is not over that hole on any level. It's just slightly back. Each flute is a little bit different, but you might have to experiment adjusting with that because of course they could shift during shipping. Okay, and so there you have it. You have that tape trick that should work really good. And then you can practice peeling one off, and you can peel, let's try just peeling the thumb off. So this thumb just by itself will drone at the fifth. So now I can just leave that tape up a little bit higher, and I have my thumb covered on that now. And now you can listen to what it might sound like if I lift up the thumb. This is where the instructions come in handy. We can just try one finger at a time. This will give you on a key of E. I think that's going to give you, well, I don't even want to guess. I think it's note E, right? Note E will come out of there. So I will tell you that if you do feel pretty comfortable covering your pinky but not your thumb, you could just play the flute like that all the time. You don't even have to use that. And now you have a drone at the fifth. So another way to use this is you know, if you don't have the coordination or the skill yet to be able to just riff back and forth with your pinky and your thumb and all, you can just play, you can just change it up. You can just play this flute with the low drone. And then you can decide to pull that tape and just play with it open. Okay, got that. And then that's just a great way to do it. So now I'll just kind of close my eyes, play a little melody, and just use the thumb hole and lifting it and raising it and just playing melodies on the other side. So keep in mind, this is where your muscle memory has to come into play. I don't know if you noticed, but I didn't have any spot on there that I played where it sounded like a single flute again all of a sudden. What I'm trying to say is that it's going to take practice, but that fifth of the scale is also on this side. So if I play with it open, you can hear right now it's got a little warble to it, but that's the same note. I skip right over that because I have muscle memory and I know that I don't want the drone to be interrupted. So I know that when the thumb is lifted, I don't play with all four fingers up. That means I just bypass that note and go right up to the top. Also, if you play the note above the fifth, that's a half step. So you're going to get that dissonant sound. So some people right away might be like, what is that? And maybe kind of get discouraged. Like I'm playing this and I'm just not getting the right sounds. But that's the responsibility of the player to, over time, and this goes with hand pans and stuff. I mean, I make these and it's just kind of, as I've been making them and as I've been playing them, it just became sort of second nature for me to understand. And now I have to do it with all the different scales. They all have different fingering. And I have to remember which hole to leave down at any given time for which flute. But in this case as well, when that pinky is lifted up or that thumb is lifted up, I need to know what notes are going to sound well with it and what notes aren't going to sound as well with it. And later on, I'll share a few tricks on that as well, of just easy shortcuts that you can potentially use those notes without having it super memorized. And I don't think I have it super memorized, but I feel like I can get by pretty good with these. All right, here I go. I'm just going to play. And so you can't see when I lift my thumb up in this video, but you can hear that. You know, anytime it goes up to the higher drone. So I hope you liked that. That just gives you ideas. And again, I know I'm skipping this note and this note when I'm playing the thumb. I'm not playing those two notes. And this note here, guess what that note is? That's that same note if I lift the pinky and the thumb at the same time. So that's something we'll get to. But let's not go there quite yet. I'm going to cover the thumb hole and I'm going to uncover the pinky hole. Same rule applies. If you're playing the pinky hole, you have to know that if you play this note right there, that is the same as this note. So if you want zero interruption on your drone while you're playing, oh, let's see what we got here. Okay, we're good. You have to know not to play pinky up and three fingers on the bottom up. And again, that'll just become muscle memory over time. You're just going to have patience with that. So I'm just going to play with the pinky off. You see what happens when I get to it. Again, this flute, for whatever reason, is showing a little warble on there. Sometimes that'll just happen sometimes, and then sometimes not. Potentially that's because of the temperature in the room or whatever. And that's something, again, that the player has to know, and that I, as a player, don't even have to worry. I actually think it sounds kind of cool. I almost prefer a little warble on it rather than an exact note, because it sounds less of an interruption. See, breath pressure a little harder, and then it was solid. Okay, that's the scale with the pinky lifted up. Again, same rule applies. You can just play like that. I prefer, if I was going to leave one open, I'd probably prefer to leave the thumb, because I think that the fifth of the scale really just sounds really, really sweet. So. A little side note here, I always play single while I'm playing the overall melody as well. It gives it more dynamic, more depth to the melody if you move over as a single to. So you saw how I used the pinky alternating. Now we're going to move on to, you feel like you got this and you can cover all the holes, but you just don't know what to do while you're playing the actual flute. Again, if you can cover all the holes and you get that deep low tone, just practice keeping those fingers covered, practice keeping those fingers covered. So if you can do that, that's great. Notice how I kick it up to the high octave by going. You will be able to tell with your flute if your flute's good at doing that or not. That's kind of like an added feature that isn't always there, but I try to make it there as often as I can. So we have that. Now let's see. Okay, so if you got all the fingers covered and you're struggling with just where do I hit the notes and when, again, that's just going to take experimental practice. But one trick that I can give you is when you lift these notes up, if you work down here. So how do you say that? This note, and this note on the scale are this note, and this note. 1, 2, 3. So if you can just think of avoiding this note, and this note while fiddling around with your thumbs here, while lifting those up, then you know that you're going to get some kind of really cool harmony without even having to worry about a half-step dissonance or anything weird like that. So as a rule of thumb, if you know to try to avoid this note, and this note while playing the pinky and the thumb, That is going to help you greatly not to have any weird notes that you're hitting. And I think that's basically what I do when I play this. I don't have it so perfected that I even bother trying to play those three notes while I'm playing the pinky and the thumb, because I have this thing going in the back of my mind like, oh, don't do that because you're going to mess something up, make a weird sound, right? So I just know to avoid those notes. And again, I've been playing flutes for 20 something, 30 years now. So, you know, it's more muscle memory. This isn't like, I don't learn mathematically, so it's more of a feel. I know just intuitively not to go there, not to go here, here, or here while I'm playing that. And so backing up to the five notes, so we have, and I know earlier I think I said the thumb hole was E. Sorry, it's B. I'm at a B. I'm at a E starting, and then the first note you get here is A with this, and then, and this is only on an E minor flute. This video can work for anything, any scale, any key. Sorry, not any scale. All right, thumb hole is B. Thumb hole and pinky hole off is C. That's going to take you some practice. But I always, when I'm demonstrating these in a video, I practice by trying to do them in order. So E, A, B, C, E again. So I try. So I do that by going. And then the next note B is pinky back down and thumb up. And then leave the thumb off and pinky up. That's note C. Do it again. That's A. That's B. That's C with pinky and thumb off. And then high octave blow is E again. So that's the five notes. Some only achieve four, just depends on the flute. So that's a good practice to learn how to see if you can alternate between the two. But the truth is, if you're just rocking a melody and you avoid those three notes, like I said, you probably won't have any real difficulty making a beautiful sound as long as one of those fingers are uncovered, right? So I'm just going to riff out and you will hear those notes. You'll hear them alternating between that. And watch myself, watch me. I'm just going to flow with it and not try to show you exactly what I'm doing, but watch me. I'm going to be avoiding here. When you see me lifting that pinky and the thumb, if you hear that low or the high, the E, I'll be all up in here. You know what I mean? I'll lift all of these notes. But when I'm playing pinky and thumb, I will either be up here, all fingers off, or all these down. So watch that and see if you can catch that. That's going to be real helpful for you to make beautiful sounds with your pinky and thumb. Okay. Did you catch that? I hope you caught that. But basically, anytime I picked up the thumb holes, I was either all off, and of course the high note, which is all fingers covered except the top note. I'll do that with the drone all off. Hear that? Or just the pinky still down. Or I could do that even with the pinky up and the thumb down. And then I just dropped. You see how I do that? So I don't go, I just go right down and cover all of them. That's your trick about getting these thumb holes to where you're not going to get any weird dissonance while you're playing them. I mean, really, that's basically it. That's a half-hour video. I know I can talk a lot. Sorry, I'm doing the best I can here. But that's basically what we have. I hope that that helps you on your journey. If you're a more advanced player, you're going to find that the end of this video works better for you. If you're a very beginning player, the beginning of the video is going to help you troubleshoot, okay? Or the middle of the video. All right, I hope that helps. Take care, enjoy your flute.